Hi, my name is Jalil Bishop. I'm a scholar at University of Pennsylvania, and I study Black student loan debt in our current crisis. And a lot of my work is around trying to help us understand how Black students are experiencing student loans as a crisis, and how that crisis is not unique and not isolated, but fits into a historical pattern where whenever Black people are included or integrated into opportunity, that's often based on them borrowing a type of student or a type of debt. Meaning that when Black people were given access to farming or sharecropping, they had to do that through debt. When they were given access to mortgages, they had to do that through debt. And this debt is not the same terms, and is not enforced in the same way as it is for white borrowers. This debt is designed and intentionally targeted at Black borrowers so that there's more extraction of their income and potential wealth than the debt is ever a type of leverage for Black borrowers to seize opportunity, to own their own land, to own their own home, or to experience the full benefits of earning a degree when we're discussing, student loans and that pattern. So what I hope we can do is to understand how the student loan debt crisis affects Black students, but to push ourselves to make some uncommon connections. We know in this Black student debt crisis that 80% of Black students borrow student loans. We know from the research that Black students over a decade after they have left higher education are not repaying their student loan balances. And this is true for Black students who graduate with a bachelor's degree, all the way to Black students who leave college without a degree. If you take two students, a white and a Black student, they have $30,000. About 12 years after they graduate, that Black student will still owe about $34,200. So their student loan debt actually will increase after 12 years. But if you take a white student who leaves with that $30,000, they're more likely to see a decrease. That they'll actually have about $14,000 12 years out. So we're seeing the student loan balances decrease drastically by half for white students who earn bachelor degrees, and we're seeing it actually increase for Black students 12 years after they leave higher ed. So there's data and outcomes here to show that this is a debt crisis for Black students and that it's forming along racial lines. But we also have to understand how this is impacting Black people in their lived experience. When I talk to Black borrowers, they often describe student loan debt as a life sentence, something that they believe is going to be with them throughout their life. And it hinders their ability to afford their basic needs. It interferes and interlocks with other forms of debt that they may receive from court fees and fines because of hyper-policing. When they are someone who has student loan debt but no degree, and they're in default or behind on their student loans, they're not able to access financial aid. Therefore, they can't return back to school. When I talk to parents who borrow, because student loans does not just affect the student, but it has this generational and family impact. And parents often told me stories of how they borrowed for their oldest child, and then they defaulted on those Parent Plus loans. So then when their younger children needed to enroll in higher education, they couldn't borrow or provide them with financial assistance. So student loans already is happening at this family and generational level and having an impact on how Black people see and understand their future possibilities. They see their future as something that is contingent on debt. And we as Black people understand that debt is something that has been used historically and currently as a system of control, as something where we're constantly paying off someone and rarely able to save or invest or build wealth for ourselves. But what I want us to understand or make an uncommon connection around when it comes to student loans is that this is just not a higher ed issue. It's not an issue simply of the racial wealth gap, but we have to understand student loans as a part of a pattern that has formed throughout the whole history of this country and of this country's economic system, which is capitalism. Or to be very clear, is a racial capitalism where we're constantly seeing our markets and our logic of how those markets should work and who they should benefit form along racial lines. And student loans are no different, and higher education is no different. So for us to really tackle this issue, we have to be willing to name the economic system where student loans are taking place and understand that we can't just solve this in higher education. We can't just solve this by trying to increase Black people's financial literacy, but we have to really zero in on how racial capitalism is functioning here. And again, recycling this historic pattern where Black people are included or integrated into opportunity, it means that they have to borrow debt. And that debt is often predatory with worse terms and lower returns. So yes, let's cancel student loan debt. Let's make college free, but let's have a strong and robust conversation around how do we challenge and dismantle the racialized in predatory ways capitalism functions.